Who's stronger, Steve Rogers or John Walker? Not gonna lie, looking at the evidence, it sounds like John Walker is in fact the strongest super soldier we've ever seen from Marvel. And I'm talking like just normal super soldier, I'm not counting Hulk or Sentry. Look, there's no denying that Steve Rogers is a pretty strong dude. He has many feats in the MCU and in comics and all sorts of media. But in the comics, John Walker is factually stronger than Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers can deadlift at best 2 to 4 tons. However, John Walker can deadlift 10 tons. And let's not forget, before the serum, John Walker was already at peak physical human form. That means he's even stronger with the serum. Let's compare their feats in the MCU. We have Steve Rogers stopping a helicopter from taking off, and that produces 1.6 or 2,000 pounds of lift just to hover, and he was holding it, which is over 1 ton of resisting force with the winds, likely more considering leverage and timing. And the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, John Walker stopped an armored truck from falling, and he used pretty much all his strength. Because when you factor the people inside it, the armored truck weighed around 10 tons, which is John Walker's limit. Steve threw his shield at Bucky and he caught it with no effort, but when John did that, Bucky also caught the shield, but he was sent flying in the process. And in John Walker's movie debut, he did a bunch of crazy feats. Like the Void was dropping debris all over civilians, and there was this huge concrete slab that weighed about like 3 tons, and was about to crush someone, but John Walker saved them with his back. However, the reason why John was struggling with the concrete slab was because his form was wrong. He was relying on his back, and his back was pinned, and he was trying to brace a 2.5 ton slab with no leverage and bad footing. And he was also fighting against gravity and friction in the process. Like I said, the form's all wrong. That's why he was struggling. And John's new shield isn't even vibranium. It's like your standard military grade metal alloy, but he throws it so hard with such precision that it bounces off the target and comes back to him like it's a vibranium shield. Yelena tried to use a metal table as cover to avoid John Walker, but he threw his shield so hard it came back to him and sent the table flying in the process. Like, do you know how much raw force you need to have to do that? That's insane. And when John Walker punched Taskmaster, she was sent flying across the room. When you compare the serums, Steve Rogers took a prototype and it was like the first one that actually worked, and Bucky took a Hydra ripoff of the serum. But John Walker took a perfected version of the super soldier serum. And let's not forget, in the elevator, John Walker jumped like 77 feet and he fell, but he did not need a vibranium shield to break his fall. You know the MCU's back when people are doing full-on math equations to learn more about the characters. In terms of like raw strength, John Walker is the strongest super soldier, but when you put him in a fight against Steve Rogers, he's easily losing. He's hot-headed and unstable and sometimes reckless.